Hi, everybody. Thanks for tuning into Molly's Salon. This is our weekly program every Thursday where I interview innovative thinkers and creative firebrands. We're living through a critical time in American history, the COVID-19 pandemic and a vital social justice movement led by Black Lives Matter. Our guests are a variety of artists and leaders discussing new ideas, how they're coping with the coronavirus and making positive social change, as well as showing us glimmers of hope for the future. And my guests this week are Caleen Sinnette Jennings, actor, director, and playwright, professor of Theatre Emerita from American University; Christine Evans, playwright, associate professor of performing arts at Georgetown University; and Felicia Curry, actress and singer. First up is Caleen. She's an American actor, director, playwright. She's professor at Theatre Emerita at American University, having taught there since 1989. She received a grant from the Kennedy Center Fund for New American Plays, the Heidman Award from the Actors Theatre of Louisville, and is a 5-time Helen Hayes nominee and founding member of the Welders, a DC-based playwrights collaborative. And right before we came on, Caleen, we were talking with the other guests about how long Molly's Salon has been going. And I said, it's been going now for 30 weeks. We started 2 weeks into the pandemic. It's a celebration tonight to have you on, Caleen, because this program came out of something that I did at Arena when I first came to Arena, which was Molly's Salon Live.
Yep.
And Caleen interviewed me the first time that I did the salon. Can you remember what we talked about?
Well, the set was the boxing ring that you had set up for the Tennessee Williams play, Daddy.
Cat on a Hot Tin Roof.
Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. That was your first production, and you had staged it in a boxing ring. So we sat in the middle of the ring.
Right. I love it. Oh, Caleen, it's so great to have you on. And we just had a blast working with you on the films during the pandemic with both May 22nd, 2020 and the 51st State. So I'm curious, as a writer, what was it like writing monologues about people with such immediacy? Because you were interviewing real people.
It was completely fascinating because people aren't aware of the fact that they actually speak in a form of poetry. People aren't aware of how vivid, particularly when you're talking about things that are personal, how vivid their language is, how vividly they communicate. So I think the hardest thing is really listening for their natural rhythms and listening for the way they have a particular way of allowing a story to unfold and seeing if you can capture that. I always take notes by hand when listening to make sure that I really, really listen and capture through my fingers what I'm hearing in my ears.
Did you also record people when you were?
I did not.
Oh, interesting.
I did not. Because I find it tedious to go back and just listen. And I tend to miss more things if I go back and listen to a tape than if I'm listening live and actually trying to capture it live.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's so interesting. Well, your work on both of those films was really beautiful, and it felt like you captured both the subjects, but it was also through you. So there was, half Caleen in there and half the people that you were interviewing.
Well, the number one thing is rapport, and if you can set up some kind of space where you both feel comfortable and you both understand sort of what the end product is going to be, and particularly allowing the subject to feel that their story is safe in your hands and that you wouldn't say anything that would embarrass them. Once that rapport happens, it feels so natural to sort of step inside their heads in a way. And I really enjoyed both of those experiences. Some of them are a little tougher than others. You have to learn when people say things that are completely the opposite of what you believe, to find the space of empathy and find the space where you could imagine feeling that way. So it's not a walk in the park, but it's very gratifying.
It's great. So how are you feeling this week before the presidential election?
Wow. Well, I recently retired, and I made the rookie retiree mistake of saying yes to too many things. And I'm teaching actually 3 courses, and that has been my sanity. That has been my sanity, because I've got to spend time preparing. I've got to spend time thinking about how I can make the material engaging and how I can enable people to engage with one another. And I've got to leave a lot of leeway because people are going through some hard times. So the cameras aren't always on. And keeping the energy up and allowing people the space they need to deal with personal issues. It's a different kind of challenge, but the conversations have been fantastic.
Do you find that your creativity is less during this time or more during this time? Are you getting new ideas all the time, or do you find that you're more stuck than you would be during the time before the pandemic?
Well, that's an interesting question. Well, oddly enough, again, it's the teaching that keeps me focused and keeps all the lights on, so to speak. I'm lucky in the fact that I'm teaching theater and teaching plays, and I write plays. So it's almost as if I'm teaching 10 plays in one course, and it's almost as if I've had 10 teachers coming in serially and teaching me things about the craft. So I would say I've been more productive. I don't think I'm going to do that much teaching in the spring, and it's going to be interesting to see, how I adjust to just having my own work in front of me.
Sure, sure. Well, you've been such a superb teacher over the years, Caleen.
Thank you.
I'd love to follow that through with finding out from you. Is there a piece of advice that you have given students that they might carry back to you years later and say, you know what, I have always thought about this, or I thought about this and I think you're wrong, or I thought about this and I followed it through in my own writing?
Well, oddly enough, the first thing that came to mind when you asked that question was an exercise that I've done since I took your playwrights boot camp. Way back in the early days, you invited Paula Vogel in to do a playwrights boot camp, and you invited a group of local playwrights. And she did an exercise which has been a sort of an anchor for me. And I always give her credit, because I think it's also rare to find playwrights that are that superb at their craft and are that superb in the classroom. And she's mentored so many people, but she does an exercise where she really forces you to get at the heart of what you're passionate about writing. She asks you, what are the things you like to write about, and what are the things you are compelled to write about? And after she has you brainstorm all the things you like, and then she says, now, what are you compelled to write about? That list is way shorter. And I tell folks, if you're not sweating about what you're writing, write something else.
That's great. I love that. I love that. Now, you're part of the Welders, and there's a mission in the collective to establish an evolving alternative platform for play development and production. And we worked with some of the current Welders also this year.
Yes.
Tell us about the group. What's unusual about them?
Extraordinarily, they came, well, I think we did a smart thing, because we asked people to apply as a group. So they came in with that group sense already. Incredibly mutually supportive, incredibly connected to the community in so many different ways. Many of them teachers, once again, so that understanding of the absolute necessity of having teacher learners is really important. And because many of them have experimented with all kinds of ways of reaching audiences. Many of them have worked with teens. I think they're way less freaked out about what has happened to our world than my cohort would have been. And I think they found all kinds of really interesting ways to keep creating and bring their material out into the community. I love this group of writers.
That's so great. That's so great. I'm so sad our time is over. But it's been so great to talk to you. And
Thank you.
I know our audiences love hearing from you because they've seen your work for so many years. So thank you, Caleen.
Thank you for inviting me, Molly. Take care.
You take care too. Christine Evans is an award-winning playwright and novelist. Her plays have been produced in her native Australia, the United States, Canada, England, Wales, and New Zealand. She's also a musician and an associate professor at Georgetown University in the Department of Performing Arts. So I'm so pleased to have you here, Christine. And I bet she's going to show up anytime. There she is. Hi, Christine. And Christine, you may need to turn your mic on. Yep.
Okay, here I am. Hi, Molly. Hi, Molly.
Hi.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm so happy that you're here. It's so great because having both you and Caleen on, both wonderful teachers.
Thank you.
And it's exciting because I'd love to know from you. I always learn so much from connecting with the next generation. Mm-hmm. So how is the semester going at Georgetown? How are students feeling and how are they reacting to these unusually strange times?
Oh, I'd say it is really such a tapestry of different responses. But I was listening to your conversation with Caleen, and I have to agree with Caleen that the teaching at the moment is so grounding and it's so inspiring. I think I am surprised by how well my students are doing in a way, and I think they're really fierce. They feel very much like they're in the present moment of a big change and that they are the change, So there's that intensity that they're bringing. I would say anxiety levels are pretty high. So, but there's also a sense of we're in a lifeboat together, and we're figuring out how to steer it together. So even though we're on Zoom, there's this strange intimacy about that. And I spend more time checking in with them and doing meditation together and those sorts of things than I used to do. But people are really all over the place. I have one person who is in Ireland, a student who's in Ireland at the moment. So there's the time difference. I have another student who is with his family in Chicago, and they're dealing with COVID-19 in the family, and he's recovering from it himself. So, I think my students' kind of energy and spirit is so high, and they're also very aware, as we all are, of the disparities of material circumstances. It's like it's really ripped the Band-Aid off that this whole time, that some people are living in a place where they're with their mum and their auntie and there's no quiet place and the internet goes in and out, and other people are in a nice apartment or in their family home. So yeah, I admire them so much, and it feels very live, I guess. Yeah. Well,
there's this sense that we're living through history, which is not the sense that you have all the time in life.
No.
There's certain periods of time, like in 68, 67, 68, I felt that. I was, I was a young person then, but I knew I was living through history because of what was happening in the world. And I feel like this is a moment too. So I'm not surprised to hear you say they know that they're at the leading edge of everything that's happening now.
Yeah, it's really true. And, they're very keen to learn because they want to be in the classroom. They want to be talking about plays with each other. They want to be making things. And that's very inspiring to me too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We were fortunate to have you write a play for Flash Acts, which was a collaboration between Arena and Georgetown and the Forum for Cultural Engagement and embassies in America and Russia.
Mhm.
And the theme was isolation.
Yeah.
So what was it like creating a play for this festival on that subject? Because it was just a 10-minute Zoom play that was then translated into Russian as well.
Oh, it was a crazy experience. You know, I absolutely loved it. I really loved it. I found it very inspiring. And, you know, at first, to be honest, I was a little bit like, oh, a Zoom play about isolation when I'm on Zoom all the time and we're isolated, you know. No, don't make me to go there. But I think for me, I really loved the process of writing the play. And my play is called Joy, which is kind of a counterintuitive title. And I felt the need to go away from the noise and the politics that we're all so intensely in and just think, what resources do you have when everything else is gone and you are so alone? And you know, Molly, before we started the salon, we were talking a little bit about movement, and you were saying how important it is to move. And I think my play ended up just being that, really, you know, that it's a woman alone who's frozen with dread and can't move. And then she's somehow in conversation with the spirit world or another part of herself. And there's no answers except that she has to move, you know, that joy comes from movement, from being in life somehow. And that was a discovery for me. And then I just adored seeing the two productions. You know, I had nothing to do with the Russian production, but back to back, I thought the Russian production of my play was like this mini Bergman film or something, you know, and it got me so excited about the potential for new forms and new collaborations. So I'm really grateful to have been a part of it. It was a fabulous experience.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it was so fascinating for our audiences and our artists to see what happens when there is an American director and actors, and what happens when there's a Russian director and actors, because the aesthetic world is very, very different.
Yes.
And so to see the plays, because they're only 10 minutes each, side by side, is kind of thrilling.
It's really astounding. I mean, I feel like it's such a way into cultural difference without going through the sort of pompous iteration of, oh, you know, Russians are like this and Americans are like that, you know, that you can see that there's this wonderful phrase from, I think it's Raymond Williams, the British theorist, this wonderful phrase, structures of feeling, you know, that where you come from structures the way you feel about the world, and it kind of is your lens. And you can kind of see the structures of feeling in both cultures in a way through that.
I love that. I love that. So writing is often a solitary art form. And you spoke earlier about how you're working with a group that are writing at the same time, and describe that for our audience, because I think that they will find this an amazing idea.
Yeah, so it is not my idea, but the playwright Eric for some time has been leading silent writing retreats in person that are based on the Ignatian principles and exercises. But instead of, you know, the Ignatian principles are about your relationship to God, and Eric has kind of translated that into, what is your relationship with your writing? You know, is there a spiritual practice that is about developing your work? And I've done a couple of them, and they've led to amazing things for me. There's now a group in New York that meets regularly online to do this since the pandemic, led by the wonderful playwright Liz Duffy Adams, who initiated it. And I was doing that for a while, and then I'm not a morning person, so I didn't do it at 9 a.m. with them, but I've started my own version of it that meets on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And it's really just writers join a silent Zoom meeting at a clock on time. We all wave to each other to say hello, and then we silently pursue our own work, but in community and kind of parallel, like a little herd of deer that are walking through the forest together, but not really sniffing each other's noses, you know. And that's it. It's a way of It's a way of framing practice and having community.
So you could look up at different times and see other people working, right?
Oh yeah, which is really great. So there's all these many rooms. I mean, sometimes people turn video off if they're feeling a bit self-conscious about their double chin on Zoom or whatever they're doing. But, you know, basically, yeah, you have company, silent company.
It's great. It's great.
Yeah.
Well, Christine, it was so wonderful to talk to you tonight. And
Likewise,
thanks so
Molly.
much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm excited to hear Felicia's.
Take care.
Interview.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Felicia Curry is an award-winning actress and singer, and I'll bet a lot of people who are listening today have heard her and watched her and enjoyed her performances. She's performed all throughout Washington, Maryland, Virginia. She's a company member at Everyman Theatre in Baltimore. She's hosted the Helen Hayes Awards twice. And there she is.
Hey, Molly.
It's so good to see you.
So good to see you. I am so excited to be here tonight.
Well, I'm thrilled to have you on.
Thank you.
I'm so curious because you've always been such a deep thinker about yourself within the art form.
Oh.
And have you discovered anything new about yourself in these very different, peculiar times?
Ooh, very interesting question, Molly. I think like a lot of the people who are in my position, there was a lot of questioning once everything happened, when everything shut down and I went home and there was no theater to go to and there were no colleagues to talk to and there were no shows to work on. There was a lot of questioning of self. And a lot of questioning of identity and how much of the theater is my identity, and finding that identity in other things. So I think that that's been the big learning curve here during this pandemic, is the acknowledgement of how much theater is a part of who I am, but there are many other things who make that make me up. And I need to massage those as much as I massage the theater identity.
I love that. I love that.
And that's
You know,
hard.
You bet it is. You bet it is. You know, art is often created during these times of great unrest, times of depression, times of extraordinary change. What kinds of new art do you think we'll see in the coming years? Do you think that we are going to be more tethered to what happens on the internet? Do you think we're going to see a hybrid? What do you think is going to happen?
It's definitely a hybrid. I mean, we're already seeing it. Some of us are already creating it. There's theater, there's film, and now we're in the midst of what is the combination of that. And we're just at the beginnings of that. I don't know exactly what it's going to look like, but there is going to be hybrid on top of hybrid on top of hybrid. And that's not just theater arts. I think that includes visual arts, sculptures. How are we bringing the visual art to people through a medium like this? And we were talking about in the other room, access, and how now people have access to things that they didn't have access to because location is no longer an issue. And I think that's going to be another big part of the conversation about what art looks like moving forward. Because everyone has access, I'm now changing how I get things to people. And it's really exciting. I mean, the things that the young people can do with this medium is crazy.
Extraordinary.
So I can't, I want to say I can imagine what it is, but I don't think I can. I think it's so above and beyond what we even know. But I think accessibility is going to be a big part of that, and access is going to be a big part of that. And that to me is really exciting.
I totally agree with you. I mean, it's kind of thrilling. When we were doing Camp Arena Stage this last year, we were able to have some young students who were in Washington, D.C., because they were in the morning classes. And then in the afternoon classes, we had students on the West Coast and as far away as Bogota, Colombia. It changed the energy. it changed the world. It, in an odd way, it has made everybody more connected to the
Exactly.
whole world as opposed to the United States.
And culturally sensitive. We consistently talk about this thing of being culturally sensitive, and I think us as Americans, many of us who don't have the opportunity to go out of the country, so we don't know about these other cultures. We don't have access to that. So to be able to have something like a Camp Arena where these young people are getting access to children like them in other places and seeing how they work and what they do and actually creating a community with them is it's incredible. We're creating cultural sensitivity starting young and moving it forward.
Yeah, yeah, I completely agree. You know, arena audiences last saw you in Nina Simone, and you were so beautiful in that production.
Thank you.
And she was so outspoken. I mean, she, brilliant thinker, incredible artist. What do you think Nina Simone would be saying today?
You know, she wouldn't be saying anything. She'd be on those keys and singing about it. I mean, Nina was a woman who absolutely 100% spoke her mind. I want to, and I try to be more like her, but she would be writing music about this. I'd be so curious to hear what that would sound like. And as we know, with Nina's music, it would have a classical influence, but it would be talking about exactly what's happening in the moment. We would hear George Floyd. We would hear all the names of what's happening, but with that classical undertone, and her not being afraid to call people out and to name names and to say we must do better and to hold us, each and every one of us, accountable. That's what we would have. And I know that there are Nina Simones around this country right now doing that, here in DC and in other places. And I'm excited to see what those things are. And I'm hoping to do a Nina Simone cabaret in the future, because I love her music, and I love the things she has to say. And I feel like right now we need to hear it. We need to remember it. We need to embrace it, because a lot of people, I think Nina was just angry, but it wasn't that. She was hopeful as well. She was confident that we could do better, and her music spoke to that.
Yep, I totally agree. You know, that time period was a time period of great foment, just like this time period is. And I'm curious because at that time, there were so many great songwriters working. Who do you think is writing great music for this moment now?
Ooh, Molly. Huh. I'm not exactly sure. I don't know that I could name names. I have friends who are creating music, and I know that they're creating music that is important. I say somebody like Mark Meadows, who is a jazz pianist and a friend who I know is writing music that speaks specifically to the time. I know that there are some musical theater pieces that are being worked on by friends around the DC area that are not only speaking to the time, but are speaking to their culture and what their culture is going through during this time. And that's exciting. Yeah. I'm really interested to hear about the folks who are speaking about culturally how this time is affecting them.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. What kind of music are you listening to right now?
Molly, I listen to, and this is gonna sound crazy, but right now when I'm trying to shut everything out, I'm listening to a lot of pop music, a lot of radio music. I like to run and I like to work out. And when I'm doing that, I don't want to be thinking about all the other things that are going on. So I have to listen to something that allows me to sort of shut everything else out. But because I've been asked to do a lot of different projects around town, I'm doing a lot of listening to things that I have touched on in the past. So musicals that I've touched on in the past, or even plays that I've touched on. So something like a Ragtime or a Matilda, sort of going back through my repertoire and thinking about Queen's Girl, Black in the Green Mountains, and thinking about how appropriate all of these pieces are to what's happening in the moment, which is both exciting and scary.
I love it. I love it. Well, Felicia, it's time. I'm sorry. It's been
good.
so great to talk to you
Same here.
and to feel your energy coming across the stage.
Oh,
And can't wait to see you live at some point.
same here, Molly. Thank you.
So take care.
Have a great night.
My guest next week will be Mikiko Suzuki McAdams, set designer, Maria Rizzo, actor and singer, Paul Sportelli, composer and musical director. And today's gift of art is a little look at the fabulous Ife Butler in Fannie Lou Hamer Speak on It, now in performance outdoors on the wharf in Southwest Washington. Although not tonight because we got rained out, but 2 shows tomorrow. This call to action is a captivating look at the impassioned freedom fighter who became one of the most powerful female voices of the civil and voting rights movements. Felton Offord joins Ife in Cheryl West's play, which takes excerpts of Hamer's famed speeches and infuses them with powerful spirituals and civil rights anthems and relevant political action. Fannie Lou Hamer battled through vicious attacks to vote to protect this right for all people. So let's all honor her actions by voting on Tuesday. I know we all will, or probably I bet more than half of you have already voted. So great to see you all, and we'll see you next week.
I got the light of freedom, and I'm gonna let it shine. Whoa. I believe if all women hook on to each other, woo, we could become one hell of a vote majority. Freedom, and I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.